Hello, BookTube. I know it's been quite a while. I think it's been about a month since the last video I recorded, and I apologize for that. But I do have two excuses. So the first excuse was that I had finals and the holidays and all that. And as strange as it sounds to most people, I actually get most of my reading done during school. And so the last week of school we had before the break was half days and stuff, so I didn't really read much during then. It's just a weird thing I do. I like to read during when we're not doing something in class or whatever. I think this year I'll try to make more of a commitment to read at home, but that's just what I've done for most of my life, actually. So yeah, as a result, it took me a very long time to finish this book. But the second reason it was actually due to this book in particular, and it was kind of foolish on my part, is because I actually did not like it at all. In fact, I'll explain, consider that as a summary of the review. I did not like it at all. And it took me a lot longer to finish because of that, because, it wasn't like an enjoyable bad read, it was just a bad book, unfortunately. And I found it very annoying, and it was hard to get through. Especially when I have so many other books on my shelf just waiting to be read. But I did finish it just so I could give a fully credible review. And for those of you who did not watch the previous review of Sword Dancer, this is a 7-book series called The Novels of Tiger and Dell. And the idea is that it's about a world in which there's a division between the North and the South. So the North is this very cold, polar region. It's loosely inspired by, Scandinavia. And then the South is this very warm desert region that's loosely inspired by the Middle East. And so the series itself is about, these two characters, Tiger and Dell. And Tiger is this famous mercenary from the South. And he's hired by Dell, who's from the North, in order to find her missing brother, who was kidnapped years ago. And so that thing gets resolved in the first book, Sword Dancer, but Sword Singer picks off a little bit after the first book left off, and the idea is they're heading, rather than being in the South, which was where they were in the previous book, they're going north now in order to, because Dell has to go north to be tried for this great crime she committed. I won't say what it is, in the previous book, or before the previous book started. So, you have a shift in this book is shifting from the South to the North, and perhaps the next book after that would go back to North to South, I don't really know. But the main thing is I don't really plan on reading more of this series because of how disappointing this book was. But anyway, I will explain that the reason the thumbnail is different from this cover, it's because that thumbnail is the cover of the original second book when it was printed. And this is a collection of the first two books. But anyway, I would like to put a little bit of a content warning, because this book has some kind of violent and sexual content. I mean, I normally wouldn't really bother, but this book, I don't want to disturb anyone who might be disturbed like that. So, I just want to put that out there. If that sort of thing will disturb you, then you probably shouldn't watch this review. But anyway, let's get to the review itself. So, the prose writing is still very good. I mentioned that in the previous video. Jennifer Robison definitely knows how to describe a scene, and I thought these descriptions were very memorable. She occasionally overuses some words, and she kind of overuses semicolons sometimes. In my opinion, a semicolon is something I will not use upset every couple of pages. She kind of uses it a lot in some pages, and she sometimes repeats some colors like sienna and umber that you probably never heard before. But they're interesting words, it's just she kind of overuses them. The main gripe I had with though is that this prose writing in this book wasn't as experimental as it was in the first book. The first book had these interesting scenes where the prose writing took a complete left turn compared to what you'd expect in a normal book. And I quite like that, actually. On this one, it's not experimental, so it doesn't really get points for that. There are also a few interesting side characters. I'm a big fan of having an interesting side character, an interesting minor character. There are 3 of them in particular. One of them only appears briefly, and I'm 100% sure that he appears here to set him up for future books, because he didn't appear much here, but he got enough of information about him, so you can tell he's definitely going to appear later on, although I don't intend to read that far. But anyway, that's about all the really positive things I can say about this book, unfortunately. So the characters, apart from those interesting side characters, are extremely annoying. So let's start with Tiger and Dell. So Tiger's motivation, like I said in the previous review, is literally sexual. He only follows Dell because he wants to have sex with her, and he has a sexual relationship with her that occurs off-screen. They mentioned they have they're basically friends with benefits. Occurs off-screen the whole time, and I can deal with this. The main problem, though, is that it actually is taken to such lengths, his lust, that it doesn't border on idiocy. It is directly idiotic. So, I don't want to give too much details, but they're at one point they're in a dangerous situation, and believe it or not, if they have sex, it actually makes your situation more dangerous. But Tiger insists on having sex and becomes very annoyed when they don't. And so they do, and the situation becomes more dangerous because of it. It's just really stupid decisions. So Tiger is extremely unlikable. Not just because of that reason, he's also kind of just not a very smart guy when it comes to dealing with Dell. What it'll do is they have these, every single conversation they have is basically an argument. And it's like, you've probably seen this trope occur in many kinds of media. I think in written form it's kind of worse, where you have a male main character and a female main character have this constant sexual tension, and they take it out by arguing with each other. And I find it really annoying. This book has that a lot, and I mean a lot, because Dell is just as unlikable as Tiger. So every single, like 90% of the conversations they have are basically Dell condescendingly telling Tiger that he does not understand Northern culture, he does not respect Northern women, he doesn't understand what they're doing and all that. And it's just really annoying on end. She always talks down to him, and then Tiger, you can't really sympathize with either, will always say something really stupid. Like, it's a recurring thing. The book's kind of aware of it. He'll say something stupid, he'll immediately regret it, but then Dell will just like not talk to him, or she'll become immediately angry, they fight or whatever. It's just really annoying. It occurs like 3 or 4 times. So yeah, Tiger and Dell are extremely unlikable and annoying characters. The other thing, and this is part of that content warning I said earlier, Tiger is raped multiple times in the book by monsters and things, and there's really no repercussions. It's not even really mentioned much after the fact. It's just sort of an inconvenience. And that's, it's not really a very good treatment of the subject, because it should be very emotionally, devastating to him, but it's not, because that's a traumatic experience in life. It's just something that happens, really. It's kind of, like, I didn't notice it much at first, but when I looked back at it, I was like, yeah, that's actually not a very good treatment of the subject. The treatment of sex in general is very juvenile. So basically, I had the same problem in the first book. Every single person they encounter, every single woman wants to sleep with Tiger. Like, they're obsessed with trying to get to sleep with him. It's ridiculous. Even like, there are some characters that they travel with that want to sleep with him, and they kind of have an excuse for it later on, but it's not a very good excuse. and really, it's just really, really uncomfortable if you're reading it, like, and how it happens, and the way Tiger reacts to it. Dell also, every male character in the series wants to sleep with her, or almost every male character. And it's really annoying. So every single man is a lech, and who's trying to sleep with Dell, and every single woman is also a lech who's trying to sleep with Tiger. So the whole treatment of sex is just very juvenile. And Jennifer Robertson, I thought about this in the first book. I thought maybe she wrote about sex in that way, because, I don't know, she's trying to appeal to a pubescent teenage boy audience, something like that. But she's a woman, first of all, so it's a bit weird for her to treat it in such a very, male-gazy light. But beyond that, she didn't really change it all in the second book, so I guess it's just how she writes it. I don't know. I'm sure in other things apart from Tiger and Dell, so I'm curious if it's like that all the time, but honestly, the treatment of sex, yeah, it's like I said, very juvenile. Anyway, so the book, the actual story they have is not terribly interesting. Apart from just being a long journey, they sort of run into these obstacles. They're monsters and things. They're not incredibly interesting, if being honest with you. There are a few creatures introduced in this world, but they're not, like, incredibly unique, and the book does not have any sort of, like, strong central antagonist, just like the previous one also lacked that. And I kind of dislike that. It's not necessary. I mean, some people would say in a book like this, the journey itself is the antagonist, but I kind of dislike that. I don't like how the obstacles they encounter aren't particularly memorable, and then there's a long waiting time between them. So I feel like they're just kind of going from point A to point B. And also, to add another comment to what I said about the characters Tiger and Dell being very annoying, they have these very kind of standard tragic backstories designed to make them likable, and those are the only times when you kind of have to sympathize with them, and I consider that very lazy writing. So I just like to point that as well. Also, this is something that I don't think it's really, I'm not going to describe into detail because of spoilers, but the ending, so I haven't read the third book, but the ending of the second one, it ended in a way that seems deceitful. And I'm like 99% sure that the way the ending was written to make you think happen could not have happened just because of what I know vaguely about the future books. Because it's something that they made look like it happened. And I don't know for 100% certainty, but I think that the ending was deliberately deceitful, and I don't like that. So maybe the author changed her mind later on, but either way, it's not very good writing. And that kind of left me with a bad taste. I was like, at the end of the book, last stretch was actually kind of tolerable, but that last ending kind of turned me off. The ending turned me off, and it kind of solidified my bad review. So my final rating is the previous book, Sword Dancer, I give 2.5 out of 5 stars. Sword Singer, this book, I'm giving a 1.5 out of 5 stars. It's not the worst book I've ever read. I'll give that half star for the other stuff I mentioned at the very beginning. But in general, it's just a disappointing book. I'm definitely not going to read any more books in this series, unfortunately. I am very grateful having gotten it as a book, or gotten it as a gift. I always appreciate gifts. It just clearly was not a book for me. But anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully you'll please the YouTube algorithm gods by liking and subscribing, commenting, or whatever. And yeah, have a nice day.